So, last video yesterday, Khalid inflicted a huge loss on the Romans, and now today we're going to be covering the siege of Damascus. So let's get to it, shall we?
In disgrace. At the same time, the remnants of his shattered army, in addition to the local Roman population, withdrew to the apparent safety of the walled cities, which subsequently became crowded with refugees. Perhaps an omen of things to come, Heraclius then retreated with his headquarters further north to the city of Antioch, due to the fact that Muslim forces now controlled the countryside and were expected to advance on the most prominent urban centre in the area. A week after their victory at Ajnadayn, the Arab forces began to march north in the direction of Damascus. On their way, they had to leave a mounted detachment at the city of Fahl, ancient Pella, to keep the Roman garrison there tied down while the main army marched onward. After this was done, the Muslims reached Yakusa on the southern bank of the Yarmouk River. Here they were opposed by a blocking force of Byzantine troops on the northern shore. They were in no real position to offer serious permanent resistance, but they were there to delay the invaders and to allow the great city to further prepare for a coming siege. After a short battle here and another battle against 12,000 Romans at the Yellow Meadow, otherwise known as Major Safar, the road was clear to Damascus.
Genius.
When the invading Arabs neared the city, the Muslim commander realized that his forces were not numerous enough to encircle it entirely.
It's hard to put into words the horrors that
Instead, each of the Muslim sub-commanders stationed their contingents outside of the city's various gates, fully blockading the crucial thoroughfares by August 21st with a total of around 20,000 soldiers, 16,000 infantry, and 4,000 mobile guard cavalry. Damascus immediately began starving due to the lack of supplies and unpreparedness for a siege, while the Muslims were well supplied due to their domination of the fertile and productive local countryside. As the swift Arab light horsemen were relatively useless in a siege, Khalid ibn al-Walid sent a few hundred of them to the Eagle's Pass to the north in order to act as scouts. Here they watched for any Byzantine relief force aiming to pass through this choke point. The other half stayed near the city as a reserve, ready to help repel any sortie made by the Romans. In Antioch, the Roman emperor learned of the siege and sent a 12,000-strong relief force, along with plentiful supplies, to help.
Man. Yeah, Damascus is in huge trouble. Again, like I said, the Muslims are just blitzing right now, the Romans, and like they basically have, like he mentioned, their countryside under their grasp now. So now it's like, again, they're moving so quick. That's the thing. They're basically blitzing not only the Sassanids but the Romans, and like, man. Though I mean, we've covered a few sieges, though I think this is the first video in the series where it's going to be covering a specific siege in more detail. So I'm kind of looking forward. So far, they seem like they're just going to go with the starving out plan. It doesn't seem like there's equipment, at least that he hasn't mentioned yet. And again, the starving out plan works because they weren't expecting a siege. So it's not, they don't have to fully worry about storming, at least I don't think so. And all they need to do is defeat this relief force, right?
Help Damascus on September 9th. When this force reached the narrow pass where the Muslim scouts were stationed, they pushed the cavalry back. One of these scouts managed to send notice to al-Walid, and he, gambling that repelling the relief attempt was more important than maintaining too tight a blockade, took the remaining cavalry at night to the Eagle Pass, where he managed to rout the Romans.
Holy crap. Dang, man. Just like, the Romans are getting thrashed so hard.
Despite their apparent success, the besieging Arab forces were now stretched thin by Khalid's withdrawal. Historians believe that if the garrison's general Thomas had chosen to launch a sortie at this point, The Byzantines could have broken the siege, but they did not and therefore lost the opportunity.
Dang, man. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, huh? But, again, defeating the relief force I think was important, but that was risky, right? Like, if the Byzantines had capitalized, it could have all fallen apart. That's just luck right there.
It seems that al-Walid realized he had put the siege in danger with his gamble, and he hurriedly returned to Damascus after he attained victory at the Eagle's Pass. As the garrison and Thomas realized that no relief was coming, morale among the defenders of Damascus became weaker and weaker. It was clear action would be needed. So, the Emperor's son-in-law decided to launch a counter-offensive of his own. For this first attack, Thomas decided to concentrate on one specific section of the city, drawing men together from all sectors of the city towards the Gate of Thomas, where he was faced by around 5,000 soldiers under Shurabil. After the defending soldiers gathered in the area, the Byzantine commander began his sortie by ordering his archers to rain down a constant stream of arrows against their enemy, to which the Arabs responded accordingly. Using the cover granted by the Roman missile units, the infantry rushed through the Gate of Thomas and fanned out into battle formation, with Thomas himself leading the assault.
So this is a pretty big gamble on Thomas. Again, if he had struck when the Muslims had stretched themselves thin, would have been better, but he missed that opportunity. But now he's going for it. And this would have to rely on him quickly defeating this section of the Muslim army, right? He would have to quickly, defeat them. And I guess make a run for it, or or maybe even take them on separately. But this would require him to be incredibly quick, right? Like gain a quick victory and break them. We've seen the Muslims so far in this series, and they are quick. So I'm like wondering if they could just hold out long enough to be reinforced. That seems like what I think could possibly happen. But I guess we'll find out. But I imagine that the Muslims, being quick as they are, might come to reinforce this section and drive Thomas back.
During the subsequent skirmish, it is reported that Thomas both broke through a section of the Muslim line and almost killed Shurabil, but he was then shot in the eye by the widow of a slain Arab soldier. Despite
a widow? Well, like a woman killed him? Wait, let me get that again.
Both broke through a section of the Muslim line and almost killed Shurabil, but he was then shot in the eye by the widow of a slain Arab soldier.
Holy crap. Dude, that sucks. It seemed like for a second there, Thomas might have been able to do something, but he gets no-scoped by a widow. Oh, that sucks.
Despite some level of success, the sortie had failed to break the siege, and the Byzantine forces retreated into the city. As they did, it is said that the injured Roman leader swore to take 1,000 eyes in return for his own.
Oh, snap. Oh, he's alive? I thought he got killed by that. Oh, man. I don't know, Thomas. That might have been his, like, only chance. I think the Muslims would be, like, more on alert now, right? Like, oh, he's trying to break free, you know?
That night, another plan to break the siege was devised by the defenders. As a concentrated attack on one of the gates had failed, Thomas would this time launch simultaneous strikes from 4 of the gates. 2 large forces were gathered, at the eastern gate where Khalid was in command, and at the Gate of Thomas, where the main attack against exhausted enemy units would be undertaken. The other forces at the small gate and the Jabir gate were designed to pin their besiegers in place.
I have to give it to Thomas. He definitely has drive. And now I see what he's doing. I guess with this plan, my original worry of the first part would be like, he would have to defeat them quickly lest the Muslims were to reinforce. But now it's like he's pinning everyone down and going for an all-out, just everyone's fighting. This reminds me of Alicia, you know? So I'm not sure it'll work, though. Like, I guess we'll find out, but... We'll see. It's definitely different. He's not trying the same thing twice. He's going for it, so I do respect that.
As Thomas sounded the attack, a grinding battle took place at the Jabiyah Gate, with both sides suffering many losses. After a while of this slaughter, Abu Ubaidah and his forces at this gate managed to doggedly repulse the Byzantine assault, driving them back into the city. The situation was far more serious at the Eastern Gate, where the Byzantines had a larger force. This larger contingent of defenders managed to break the Arab infantry and drive them back, but Khalid himself then arrived with 400 elite mobile guard cavalry and with them struck the Roman flank. This weakened the sortie irreversibly, and the defenders were slowly driven back inside the gates. Once again, however, the worst of the fighting occurred at the Gate of Thomas. Here, the Byzantine forces were led by the one-eyed Thomas himself, and after intense fighting, there was still no weakness in the Muslim ranks. At this point, the Roman commander seems to have realized there was no point in continuing the grinding melee.
They got completely repelled on all fronts. Holy crap. Yeah. A for effort, Thomas, but I think the Muslims are just too, like, battle-tested now. Like, they're just too good at fighting.
And commanded a slow, steady withdrawal. All the while, the Arab archers continually showered his men with arrows. This was the last effort by Thomas to break the Muslim siege, and it had failed with the loss of thousands of men. With this defeat, he could no longer afford any more attempts at a breakout. A Greek in Damascus, known as Jonah the Lover in Arab sources, climbed over the wall and informed Khalid that on the night of the 18th of September there would be a Christian religious ceremony which would leave the walls relatively unguarded. He supposedly betrayed his city because his marriage to his fiancée had been interrupted by the siege, and frustrated, Muslims help in obtaining said bride.
Yo, legit though? Dude, I just want to get married, bro. I'm looking to smash. I don't care about Rome right now. I'm looking for my baddie right now, bro. Can you help me? And Khalid's like, say no more. You gotta convert though, but say no more. You know, just gonna throw that in there. But that's insane. But we've seen this many times. Like, during sieges, whenever people have ceremonies or freaking parties, the walls are undefended, and that's always the prime opportunity to attack, right? So it seems like it's about to happen again.
This man soon converted to Islam, but the details are incredibly vague. Whatever the case, details of the opportunity led Khalid to borrow ladders from a local monastery and to purchase ropes in order to form an assault party. That night, a 100-strong contingent, led by the Muslim general himself, climbed the walls, dropped into the city and killed the guards at the eastern gate. Then the attackers flung open the gate and let the remainder of the Muslim forces at the eastern gate inside the city. The other Byzantine detachments stationed elsewhere were unaware of this surprising development, and instead of helping, stayed at their posts. At the same time, Khalid began to fight his way towards the center of the city. Now attempting to save the city for a final time, Thomas sent envoys to Abu Ubaidah at the western Jabiyah Gate, offering surrender and a payment of the jizya in exchange for a capitulation by terms. This was given by the supposedly peace-loving Abu Ubaidah. However, Khalid, who had finished slaughtering his way to the center of the city, was furious that a surrender had been allowed even though the city had technically been taken by storm. Nevertheless, the many Muslim unit commanders agreed that a surrender would be honored. Khalid reluctantly.
Wow. Okay, that was smart of Thomas. At that point, it's either that or just complete everyone's getting murdered, right? So that was probably for the best. He made that move. at least to save the city, right?
Accepted this judgment. The fall of Damascus was a shock for the Byzantines, as they probably thought that the Muslim attack on the region was a massive raid and not a full-on invasion. Syria and Egypt were the most...
So, I probably should end the video here. That was the siege of Damascus. And overall, frickin' yeah, man. The power of wanting to get your wife is enough to topple cities. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow in the next video. Bye, everyone.